Town travel to Shrewsbury for the Paulhurst Derby on Saturday. Will we see some rotation? Will we see any goals? We talk about all this and much more on the latest episode of the Blue Monday podcast. Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast discussing the town up or down since 2015. I'm Richard Woodward and you're tuned into the Prematch show in partnership with our friends at the Greyhound Pub in Ipswich. This is the Shrewsbury away edition, and joining me for one of the last few times of the season, you're not going to miss the research, are you, Seb? Seb Brown's here. Seb, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you, mate. Yeah, I'll have to work out what to do with 90 minutes to 2 hours of my working week where I do all this. I have to do something productive, won't I? No, I'm good, thank you, mate. Looking forward to meeting up with you guys at Shrewsbury, and I think I'll do crew after that. But then I think I'm done for the season. But I've joined the season ticket ranks this week. I know it seems very strange living 4.5 hours away, but yeah, I mean the good thing is petrol's very reasonable at the moment, so it won't cost much to go back for a game. But no, I've taken the plunge. I've joined the season ticket crew like you guys. So let's see how we get on, eh?
Oh, optimism. And after all this time, it's probably been... When was the last time that you had your own season ticket?
Well, I've 2004-05, I think, was the last season I had one, because I remember having a big argument with my dad because I was at uni and I went to like 3 games a year, and he said, I'm not paying for that. And I said, that's ridiculous. That's incredibly selfish of you. So he cancelled it and kept his own one. But I've joined the ranks again this year. So hopefully I'll get to see a season like that next year with a slightly better ending.
I was going to say 04-05, probably the last season, maybe 14-15 in there as well, where we actually had some meaningful opportunity for success. I was going to say we didn't really have success, but it was a good era, wasn't it? So there you go. It's been Seb's fault, everyone, since 04-05. But now he's redressed the balance. Balance is restored to the force. Seb's amongst us as the season ticket holder. Oh, that's great news. And last time out, you were struggling, a bit under weather, doing better this time.
Yeah, negative, thankfully. So I'm allowed to go back out and rejoin society again. I know you can go out anyway, but I chose to stay off. I didn't want to risk infecting anybody or anything. So yeah, no, a couple of coughing issues, a couple of breathing issues, but looking forward to getting back out in the fresh air on Saturday on the terraces at Shrewsbury.
I was going to say, you're usually the positive one on this show, so it'll be a nice change for you to be negative. There you go. There's a COVID-related joke for you there, which is made with very bad taste. Let's move things on and talk about some news. And on the day that we record this, Seb, this is the 1-year anniversary of the Game Changer takeover. I quoted up and did a clip of our reaction show from that day. Thinking back this time last year, I was moving house, or I was about to move house. It was a stressful time. But Ben's words on that show are, the Marcus Evans era is over. Talk about your feelings a year ago today, and how do your expectations compare to how you felt this time last year compared to where we are now, 9th in League One and staying down for another season?
Yeah, I mean, like Joe, Mikey and Dave broke it down on the live show last night. You just have to look at it in 2 different areas, don't you? Look at the on-pitch stuff and the off-pitch stuff. So on the pitch, 5, 6, maybe out of 10, it's not gone amazingly. I think, we haven't moved forward since they took us over, but the squad is in so much of a healthier place. We seem to be set up for success. And off the pitch, 9.5. Have they really missed a beat at all in the last 12 months? Everything we wanted, we've had. We now have interaction. You chatted with Mark Ashton on this podcast. Could you imagine ever getting an interview with Marcus Evans back in the day? So we now have visibility from the ownership group. We hear from them all the time. The stuff on Twitter the Americans do when they can't get over. Portman Road has got 26,000 people in it to play Cambridge as we sit 9th in the old Division 3. It's chalk and cheese to a year ago. I was excited when the takeover happened. I still thought a little bit last when they took over. I thought we might gate crash the playoffs because we were only 3-4 points off it, I think, when they took over, but obviously that didn't happen. And I kind of thought, like everybody, the summer of change was needed, maybe not to the level of 19 in and 20 out, but overall, it's such a great time to be a Town fan, isn't it? I know this season hasn't gone to plan, but we can probably pick 7 or 8 of next year's starting 11 likely right now, can't we? So we trust McKenna. We know what he's going to do. I'm really excited to see what he can do with the full preseason, with some of the players like Harper coming back, Edwards. Can he really coach and develop these players? And I think next season could, whisper it, touch wood, it could finally be, I guess, what we thought 2019, 2020 was going to be when we were top of the league after 12 games or whatever. I think it could be a great time on the pitch to match up the fantastic stuff off the pitch. So it's a brilliant time to be a Town fan.
Yeah, and a lot of people will be feeling very similar to you and getting season tickets right now as well. So optimism builds, and that's part of the reason I've done it. If we were still in the Marcus Evans era, I would never ever have considered it. We were a club. There was no point to us, was there? Let's be honest, no point to Ipswich Town whatsoever. We just went from season to season, and when we got it wrong badly and got relegated. But when you're there for the Pompey game and the Plymouth game, and there's 26,000 people in the ground, and the North stands in full voice, and you're seeing great attacking football, and it makes you want to get back involved. And that's part of the reason I've made that decision. It's based on what Game Changer and what McKenna have brought to the table in the last 12 months. Yeah, brilliant stuff. Well, if you want to relive all of that early optimism and some of the access, the unprecedented levels of access that Seb was talking about there, we've done a retweet. You can find it obviously on our YouTube channel and on our podcast feed if you scroll back far enough. The reaction show with Ben, Craig, and Joe from the morning when the announcement came out. Our chat with Phil from TWTD, with Mark Detmer that went out last summer, with Craig, I think it was, from our team. And you mentioned it as well, Mikey and Joe and Dave, our midweek Q&A show, did drill into a year on as well. So that's available as well. So head to our Twitter at Blue Monday ITFC to access that. The live Q&A you can find at the top of all of our feeds right now until this show comes out. So look underneath us after you've finished hearing about Shrewsbury. That is. Finally, in terms of bits and pieces of news, Seb, and this is interesting and relevant when we talk about the weekend opponents as well. Kieran McKenna is nominated for Manager of the Month for March. 3 wins and 2 draws, you're telling me here, so I believe you when you say that. He's got the Manager of the Month curse out of the way by losing to Cambridge last week, so we should be all good if he wins it before the weekend.
It's probably deserved, isn't it? I mean, Stephen Schumacher was the other one, wasn't he, at Plymouth? He lost to us, obviously. Shrewsbury lost to Oxford, so I think we're Liam Richardson's also nominated, and they've got the same record as us, haven't they? 3 wins and 2 draws in the month. So it's between him and Richardson, I guess, and like you say, he got it out the way last week to set ourselves up for the big game against Shrewsbury this weekend. Finally,
in terms of bits and pieces of news / looking ahead to the weekend's action, heartbreak for ITFC women last weekend, the critical title decider. A lot of optimism around that for very good reasons. Took the lead, managed the first half really well, and then a tactical switch by Southampton, kind of sucker punch brace of goals just after the restart, and then they saw the game out quite professionally, and that gives them the crucial title advantage now with the games in hand they've got. It's theirs to lose, really, but we can hope for a slip-up. It's happened before, and it's not impossible that it won't happen again. Town return to match action, and it's a really good one for us. We're, along with some of our subscribers, in a group that we're kind of calling the Friends of Blue Monday. We're sponsoring the match. We're the match sponsor. So shout out to Andrew, to Ed, Chris with a C and Chris with a K, and to Mark as well, who have joined us in doing that, and we will be there. If you haven't yet been to an ITFC women's match, what a great one to pick in respect of it being sponsored by us, but a real good opportunity for Town to get back to winning ways as well. Beat Chichester and Chelsea as the opposition, beat them 4-0 in the away game earlier in the season. They lost to Portsmouth midweek, but they are second bottom, 5 wins, 2 draws, 16 defeats, negative goal difference of 33. The only league away win they've had is a basement club Hounslow. So a real opportunity for Town to get hopefully a morale boosting win. They need to keep winning anyway. There is, you can't step away from the title action. It could go to the last day. So you need to keep those hopes alive. Southampton play Portsmouth on the last day of the season. Maybe they'll do us a favour. So they need to get back to winning ways. Really good opportunity to do that on Sunday, and hoping to have Maddie Biggs and Silvana Flores fit, who missed out last time around as well. So there's ITFC women news. Anything, bits and pieces to add there, Seb, apart from...
They've got to play Oxford still, haven't they, as well? When's that on the horizon? Is that
so that's 2 weeks' time.
Okay, and is that at the Gold Star?
Yes. So the next two games are at the Gold... Well, the next three games, so Chichester and Chelsea. It's a weird word. This weekend, sponsored by Blue Monday, Friends of Blue Monday podcast. Next weekend, Easter weekend, annoyingly. So people might be out and about for Easter Sunday, but London Bees, I think it is. And then Oxford the week after. So big crowd for that one. Let's get behind the team.
Yeah.
Let's
like
give them...
All they can do is win the games and see what happens. We know they've got 2 games in hand, Southampton, but all we can do is win. It's it's better to have the points on the board than it is to have games in hand, and hopefully one of the other teams can do us a bit of a favour.
And we know this team are beatable or drawable, if that makes any sense. So there is still hope there, but need to get back to winning ways, need to put it out of the system and regroup and finish strongly for what has been an immense season as well. So we're super proud of that team, obviously, and we're very much looking forward to sponsoring the match on Sunday and picking the player of the match and all that fun stuff as well. So do join us if you can for that one. Talking about weekend matches, Seb, let's talk about Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury or Shrewsbury?
Shrewsbury.
Is it Shrewsbury? Okay.
Yeah, Shakespeare didn't write the taming of the shrew, did he?
I don't. Well, I think it might be one of these local pronunciation things, because I think it's like Bowie and Bowie, and I always hear two.
Tomato.
So yeah, exactly right.
Let's call the whole thing off.
Let's call the whole thing a ruddy. So Shrewsbury.
I'm going Shrewsbury. Yeah,
I'm going Shrewsbury. We're both going to Shrewsbury and from different directions. Tell us where they are. I mean, it's a really weird team to talk about, Shrewsbury, because league position you're going to tell us about in a second. But there are they are high performing in certain areas.
Yeah.
But not doing well in other areas. It's a very up and down team, isn't it?
Yeah, normally you do the research and these things all kind of tie in. A side that's mid-table will be mid-table for possession, shots and goals conceded and stuff. But yeah, like you say, they are punching above their weight in terms of the chances they create and the goals they score, and yet they're massively overachieving their defensive stats. So they're currently sat 16th in the league, played 41 games, won 12, drawn 12, lost 17, scored 41 goals and conceded 39. So they're on 48 points. They're not going to go down or anything, and they're in a decent run of form at the moment as well. They lost to MK Dons last weekend 2-0, but before that, they'd won 3 and lost 2 of their last 5 games, and I think it was 6 clean sheets in the last 8, and one of those included a 3-0 win at Rotherham. I know Rotherham have gone a little bit ropey recently, but their recent form is pretty decent going into this one, isn't it?
It is, and yeah, I'm looking at the home form. You've given me the information here. Home form 14th best in the league and on 32 points, but as you say, won their last 2 there. So there's definitely this is a really difficult one for us to call, particularly more about where we find ourselves going into this match as well. We'll talk about Ipswich team. There's chat of illness in the camp as well, so that's not going to help. Remind us last time out when we faced Shrewsbury.
So we beat them 2-1 in a Paul Cook era game. October, I think it was, early October. Chaplin scored early on in the 23 minutes into the first half. Sean Wally equalised on 28 minutes. And then Bond scored from a Lee Evans corner. We scored from a corner. I don't remember it. I wasn't there. I wasn't there, so I don't know. But I just read that and thought, my God, we used to have dangerous. I guess Lee Evans probably swung in. We used to have dangerous delivery, and we could score from set pieces. But no, we beat them earlier in the season 2-1, and our overall head-to-head against them is pretty decent, isn't it? We've won 16 games. There've been 9 draws between the two, and they've only beaten us 3 times, and we're actually unbeaten in our last 11 games against them. So hopefully, touch wood, that run continues on Saturday, because it's a team we normally do pretty well against. I remember going. I think it was the only time I've ever seen Ipswich win a penalty shootout. I did the 2009 Roy Keane era. Connor Wickham scored twice. Carling Cole League Cup game. I think it was the second or third game of the 2009-2010 season, and he played the reserves. I think Reggie Lamb and that lot played. It was a 3-3 draw, and then we won on penalties. It was brilliant.
I'm trying to. I think you mentioned the 3 defeats. There is quite a chastening mid-80s FA Cup kind of giant killing defeat in there, if I'm correct. I'm just trying to find out. It might have been the league. There was a 2-0 defeat, January '84, where I think I guess they were maybe the division below at that time, but yeah, a couple of FA Cup defeats in there. One in '82 as well, where so the defeats of large. There's 2 out of those 3 have come in the FA Cup, and I think one of them. It's on my match of the day Ipswich Town history video where the post Bobby Robson era, everything is starting to kind of crumble a little bit. And I think a Shrewsbury Cup defeat is in there. So there'll be people a little bit more advanced years who know better than us about that. But hopefully that's ringing bells rather than me chatting nonsense. Let's move on quickly, Seb. Let's talk about their run-in.
So they will have a say. Yeah, they'll have a say in the end, the final shake-up. They've got us obviously at the weekend. Then they've got Sunderland away, and they've got Wigan away on the last. Wigan at home at New Meadow on the last day of the season. So they are playing a few of the top teams, I guess. They've also got games against Doncaster and Charlton thrown in there as well. So, like I say, they're not going to go down, and they might have a bit of a say as to who can gate crash the playoffs or who can get automatic with the Wigan game on the final day.
I kind of feel like this is a copy and paste of Cambridge from last week. Pretty sure Cambridge had similar fixtures to these ones. It's weird.
We said they'll have I guess there's so many teams competing though. You've probably got the top third of the division, haven't you, going for the 6th space. So it's natural you're going to play a few of them. But it does seem every week we do this and we see teams will have a say in the final shake-up.
Talk to us about the last time out against MK. Some very telling stats, but also some stuff that Cottrell came out with as well.
Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting. So, us and MK are very similar in terms of being a massively possession-based side. They lost 2-0 away to MK Dons, which is no real surprise. They only had 34% of the possession, had 7 shots, only 2 on target, but MK had 10 shots and 6 on target. They created 2 big chances in the game, but they missed both. It was a decent save from the MK keeper for one of them. And then Cottrell came out after. I thought it was quite interesting and said the team didn't follow the instructions given. So they had a guy, Tyrese Forner, we'll come on to him. He's on loan from Forest. He's sort of their defensive midfield screening option, and apparently he stepped up to go and close down a ball and left space in, which Scott Twine immediately was got into that level of space. He picked up the ball, played a through ball through to Mo Issa for the opening goal. So I thought that was quite interesting because if you look on paper, you see us and MK Dons and think we both play similar kind of football. We'll keep the ball and knock it round. Are we going to be seeing similar kind of tactics from Shrewsbury? But now they've had a warning shot across their bows. What happens when they tend to break from those rules? We might just see Forner sitting there all game trying to deny whoever plays in the number 10 role, be it Chaplin, Selina, Aluko, whoever, that space. And I guess they might be a little bit more sort of disciplined against us and a bit more well drilled, having been burnt at the weekend.
Disciplined. I wonder whether your thoughts on whether Forner might be dropped because of that indiscretion.
Well, I'm not sure because they haven't got the biggest squad in the world, and the natural cover. We'll come on to the likely lineup, but David Davis is their likely sort of central midfield cover, and he's out injured. So I think he will still play. I just think he'll be a lot more wary of moving out of position and leaving that space open to be exploited by us, having had that ring in his ears from Steve Cottrell on Monday morning.
I did enjoy you use the words "follow the instructions given" without saying this sound. And beforehand, and then going woo 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 like our bumpers do. So I heard those words in that order. I always expected to
you immediately panic. I think there's a fire drill or it's the start of a Blue Monday podcast.
Oh, there's something that I can't hear. What's going on? Talk about Steve Cottrell. Then we mentioned him a few times. A fellow Manager of the Month nominee, along with Kieran McKenna. Had real serious health issues post-COVID, didn't he?
He did,
for a while last season, but he's doing well for them now. He's they went on a great run as well, I think, before he got ill, and he's obviously continued that.
Yeah, he has. Yes, and we know him more, I guess, as the next level up kind of manager. He's very experienced at Championship level with the likes of Bristol City and Burnley and stuff. But he's joined Shrewsbury in November 2020. He's managed 57 games. He's won 21, drawn 15, and lost 21. So 1.37 points per game, which across the season works out at in the 60s or something. So pretty comfortably kind of mid-table. So he's doing a decent job there because they haven't got the biggest playing budget in the world. The stadium's not that big, so I think he's doing a fairly good job there. like you say, he had issues with COVID last year. I was looking into the game last season, and I cannot remember it at all. It was a 0-0 draw, unsurprisingly. I remember the postponement game because I think we went up there in January or February, and
Frozen
the pitch was frozen, and we turned all the way around and went back down again. And the replay was the penultimate game of the season, I think, the last away game, and I've got no recollection of it whatsoever.
Two bits spring to mind, and again, feel free to correct me in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. One is, I think Kieran did the post-match interview, and two, I think Vincent Young fractured his shoulder or something.
I think that was Charlton.
Was it Charlton? I thought it was against Shrewsbury.
Okay, maybe you're right. Yeah,
I might be wrong, but those are those two facts might be both non-facts, fake news, but those are all I can remember. Yeah, another one of these crap 0-0ers that were happening about this time at the end of last season. And yeah, Steve Cottrell, I mean, I possibly may be guilty of lumping him in with the same ilk as Pulis and McCarthy and that kind of lot. But I think maybe there's a sense that he's a little bit more progressive there. I mean, there's a certain style of play that we're going to talk about shortly. But as you mentioned, his time has largely been in second tier level, sacked by Birmingham, I think, before going into Shrewsbury. And he's obviously doing very well there and has brought the squad together there. So, yeah, good for him. And he's got a defeat on his roster here for his March output, which possibly puts him in second fiddle to McKenna and Richardson. But I'm sure in terms of relative success, that's a pretty decent month for any team at this level, and certainly for not wishing to patronise them for the likes of Shrewsbury. Let's talk about kind of attacking, defensive kind of possession stats here. You mentioned the goals scored. Yes, I kind of alluded to it at the start of the intro as well.
This is where it gets weird, isn't it? So the goals scored in no way reflect where they are in the league. So they're not amazing at scoring goals. They've only scored 41, which works out at 1 per game, which is the 4th worst in the league. So, you know, by that merit, they should be further down the table. They only average 11 shots per game, which is the 6th worst in the league. And they only create 1.2 big chances per game. So this is not a side that scores goals, has a lot of shots, or creates much at all. 25% of their goals have come from set pieces. It's a bit lower when they play at home. I think it's 10 goals from set pieces. Interestingly, did you know we've scored 8 goals from set pieces this season?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Well, you mentioned one of them.
But yeah, Bonn, Edmondson at Plymouth, but I can't think of many more. I think, did Lee Evans get one maybe in the
penalty
game?
Count?
I presume so. Have we had many penalties?
I'm not sure we've had many penalties either.
Chaplin scored one at Gillingham. Piggott scored. I don't know. But yeah, I was just surprised when I looked and saw that we'd scored 8 from set pieces. So yeah, they are not a side that are going to be creating a lot of chances or firing off shots from all angles. And the possession is a similar kind of story. You know, it's the average is 42.7%, which is the 2nd worst in the league. Slightly higher at home, 44%, albeit, which has only moved them up 1 place. They're still 3rd worst in the league for possession. And their accuracy isn't great either. It's 65.3% accuracy, which is the 7th worst in the league. So they are not great at attacking or creating chances or scoring goals, and they're not very good at keeping the ball. And yet they are pretty comfortably in mid-table because they are very, very good at defending. Their defensive stats are absolutely superb. So they've conceded 39 goals, which is 0.95 per game. That is the 3rd best in the league behind Rotherham and Wigan, which sounds crazy given where they are in the league, isn't it? 14 clean sheets, only 2 less than us. So I guess if you take out, you know, McKenna's crazy clean sheet record, that's quite a stark, you know, comparison to have 14, only 2 less than ourselves. Most tackles per game in the league, 17.4 tackles per game, which works out at 16.6 at home. It's slightly higher at home. And they've got the best interceptions as well, 3rd in the league at 10.1. So this is a side that, you know, really, really solidly defensively. We mentioned Tyrese Forner, who sits in front of the back 3. They're a really, really well-drilled side defensively, and they're going to be hard to break down on the weekend.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of, as I mentioned right at the start, my worry is we don't score many goals from set pieces. So where are our goals going to come from? That we'll talk more about that when we talk about us, I guess, later on. And I guess, you know, some in terms of, you mentioned that there's probably a high energy, high intensity. It doesn't surprise me a Steve Cottrell team likes defending. I can imagine the recruitment is a large proportion about that, you know, players that want to do that. Dave Davies is one of those kind of players, you know, from Birmingham that, you know, just loves to defend. And Mick McCarthy was good at recruiting and putting together teams that do that. So when that happens, that foundation is really good. The trouble is the quality maybe is lacking. But in terms of the attacking options, we'll talk about the personnel. There's a good. The strikers have got a good number of goals. I mean, the goals come from the attackers. They're not spread out particularly far amongst the rest of the team. But yeah, it is high intensity, I would guess. You mix it up, would you say, in terms of the way that they like to pass the ball as well?
Yeah, so they will mix it up during the game. They sort of average 73% short passing and 20% sort of long balls. They like to play with width, so 76% of their attacks come down the flanks. They tend to focus more down the right than the left. It's 42% of attacks down the right hand side. They will get a lot of crosses into the box. They average 21 crosses per game in their home matches. So this is going to be a day for the likes of Burgess, Wolfenden, and Danassian to be really on it and strong in the air. And they're an aggressive side, like you say. When you think of, for some reason, I think of Cotterill, like you say, as an aggressive manager, the kind of manager that gets the players in their face and gets stuck in. They've got 67 yellows and 6 red cards. The 6 red cards bit is the joint worst in the league, along with Gillingham and Accrington. And I guess when you think of their kind of style of play as well, you kind of associate them all together, don't you?
Yeah, and every week we talk after the fact about teams that like to do the dark arts against us. I'd imagine they're quite good at that, particularly if they were to sneak a 1-goal advantage like Cambridge did last week. I'd imagine they'd be very good at seeing those kind of games out as well. But this kind of stuff worries me a little bit, to be honest, about where we find ourselves as well. So yeah, interesting, very interesting. Let's talk about the personnel, Seb, and the formations. It's a 3 at the back.
It is,
talked about MK Dons and the setup of that. So
more and more sides at this level now. It seems to be at most weeks we end up with a 3 at the back kind of system. I remember last week doing the research for Cambridge, and we were a bit surprised they were a 4 at the back side. And I think McKenna came out and said that pre-match, didn't he? And said, it's quite surprising to be playing a side with 4 defenders as opposed to 3 and wing back. So they normally do a 3-5-2. That's been used sort of 20 times in the league, or they've done a 3-4-1-2 or a 3-4-3. It's normally a slight variation, but it'll definitely be the three centre backs. It'll be Marco Morosi will be the goalkeeper. He's the ever present. He's the guy with the 14 clean sheets in 41 appearances. And they've got a guy, Harry Bergagnon, who's the backup. Bergagnon, like beef versus meat. That's a dinner, isn't it?
Beef Bergagnon, Burgoyne, surely.
Oh, whatever. I can't wait for this to be over, so I can stop.
I know. I love
you for the pronunciations.
At least you got Marco Morosi right, and if Mollett's listening, there's an ex-Coventry klaxon that you can sound there. Ex-Coventry goalkeeper.
Matthew Pennington, you can still find him, the formerly of the Paul Hurst era. I thought he was all right when he was at us. I thought he was okay. Yeah, ball playing centre back, one of those perennial Everton loanees who signed a 5-year contract and got loaned out 5 years on the bounce and eventually released. I thought he could do better than Shrewsbury. I'm not being disrespectful or patronising. I thought he would, maybe be slightly higher up the pyramid, but he'll be the right centre back. He's made 40 appearances with 3 goals. Ethan Ebanks Landell, so he was subbed at half time against MK Dons, so he is an injury doubt. He's made 33 appearances so far this season, but he might not figure. The other centre back will be Tom Flanagan. They signed him from Sunderland in January. Rings a bell. I'm sure I saw him in the Sunderland documentary. I think he was the guy who said about when people go up to you in the supermarket and start shouting at you for being rubbish at football. I think that was him, and I felt a bit sorry for him. So he got out of the cauldron that was Sunderland and moved to Shrewsbury. They've got a guy called Aaron Pierre. He's sort of the bench cover options. I guess if Ebanks Landell is injured, he might step in. And then a guy called Matthew Bondswell on loan from Newcastle, but then Newcastle decided to recall him because he made 11 match day squads in a row on the bench or something and didn't figure once. Excuse me. So Newcastle recalled him to play with their under-23. So they haven't got that much defensive cover, but we'll come on in a minute to the midfield, and there's an option that could drop back if need be. Right wing back, like we said, they like to focus down the right-hand side. Elliot Bennett, 40 appearances, 1 goal, 6 assists. So he's joint with another guy we'll come on to in terms of the assists makers. And left wing back is George Nurse, 40 appearances, no goals, but 4 assists for him.
I was going to, I kind of, Elliot Bennett in bold kind of was ringing out for me in terms of those assists. And, a really highly experienced player as well. I think ex-Norwich, if I'm right?
Yeah.
I think
ex-Norwich, ex-Pompey. Definitely ex-Norwich, I think. Yeah, Blackburn. Maybe Blackburn I'm thinking of.
Blackburn, I think, as well. Yeah, so very experienced player. A lot of games at championship level. And when you said a lot of the attacks come down the right-hand side, that doesn't surprise me with him in the team. So, yeah, he's going to be a player to look out for on Saturday. And some, a familiar name in midfield, unless we've mentioned him already. Another name in midfield that we'll talk about in terms of the defensive screen, but possibly a name that folk are less familiar with, who's having a really good season in Luke Leahy. Take us through these guys, Seb and
Yeah, so Luke Leahy, I think we picked him out when you do at the start of the season. You were doing your player to watch. I'm sure we chose him for the home game. He's got 8 goals and 6 assists. He's the joint top assist maker with Elliot Bennett. 37 appearances so far for him this season. Now he's a bit of a utility player, so he can play either left back, left midfield, central midfield. And as a result, he does tend to naturally drift left, even when he is playing in the central midfield role. But he can also slot in at left centre back. So if Ebanks Landell is out injured, they might move to either Pennington or Flanagan to the centre, and Luke Leahy could be the one to drop into that left centre-back position. That might be an option, in which case they might go to a 3-4-3 and bring another front option up. The other midfield players are likely to be Josh Vella, who came through at Bolton. He's a name that I remember from Bolton.
Yeah, we were linked with him a few times, weren't we?
I think so, yeah. 31 appearances and 1 goal, 1 assist. And we mentioned him, Tyrose Forner. He's on loan from Forest, joined in the January transfer window. He's the defensive option. He's made 14 appearances. He'll be the one that sort of sits there and looks to screen and really look to shut out the space like he messed up with last weekend.
Uncloak that David Davies, who I mentioned just before, is injured, but in respect of the type of player that Cottrell likes, there you go. But he won't be available.
No, he's out injured. They haven't got the biggest squad in the world, to be honest. They've got Sean Wally. He was the guy that scored against us at Portman Road. He's getting on now. I think he's 34, 35 maybe. He can cover the right-hand sort of attacking side, but he's likely to be a bench option. And Josh Daniels as well covers the central midfield options. But the three should, in theory, be Josh Vella, Tyrese Forner and Luke Leahy if Ebanks Landell is fit at centre-back.
And the strike, I mean, if we're looking at striking options in the summer, unorthodox to consider Shrewsbury. Again, one of the names that we know who I think was struggling, wasn't he? Ryan Bowman. Didn't he go off injured at Portman? Taken to hospital during the game against us earlier in the season. But he's got a great return in terms of goals. But yeah, there's a key man up front, big physical presence.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, so Ryan Bowman's got 9 goals, 3 assists in 37 appearances, and Daniel Udo's got 12 goals and 4 assists in 41 appearances. He likes to drop a little bit deeper and kind of link the play with the midfield and sort of, look to spray the ball out to Bowman, who'll play the more advanced of the roles. But yeah, he's a big physical presence. And we spoke earlier about they're going to want to get, 21 crosses on average per game. He's going to be the main target to launch that ball into, and we're going to need the likes of Burgess to be on his toes up against him because he's a big physical threat.
Yeah, he's had a very mixed career, really. Started out at Kidderminster and, he's played for basically every single team in the Midlands. He was playing at Leamington, my former local team, non-league team up in the Midlands as recent as 2018. This is a real season out of nowhere for him. He's kind of peaking in terms of his career. He's a good age. He's 25. This may be kind of a formative season for him. You kind of go beyond those two, though, Seb, and Tom Bloxham's a name I know, but probably from doing research for the previous pods. Beyond the starting 11, when the strikers are different, the options become limited, don't they? And that probably is part of the issue, maybe for why they're not higher in the league.
Yeah, potentially. There's not much there at all. Tom Bloxham, and they've got a guy, Saki Janau, on loan from Bristol City. They're kind of the backups. Sometimes Tom Bloxham, if it's a 3-4-3, sometimes Bloxham comes into that sort of right-handed attacking position. So I guess that could be an option if they do a reshift with Luke Leahy going into the centre-back position, or Wally might come in there. But the squad isn't big enough at all for what they need. A couple of injuries, and they get hurt quite badly.
Yeah, worth mentioning that we record this a few days before, obviously, the match. We haven't yet heard from Steve Cottrell as part of pre-match yet, so there could be stuff that we're unaware of here as well in terms of injuries. Don't think we've got any suspensions, albeit we know there are 6 red cards. There might be something we've missed there. But this is a strong first team, Seb. There's goals in this team, admittedly, from the primary sources of the strikers, so do a job with those 2 strikers and you possibly cancel out the threat, but you can't discount someone like Pennington heading in a corner. So yeah, lots of different threats to deal with. In terms of what we need to do to impose ourselves on them, it's a really difficult one for us to call this because essentially season over.
Yeah.
Illness in the camp, as we mentioned before, we don't know who that affects, quite understandably. We've got some issues from last week to address in respect to the selections as well. So, yeah, talk us through what your thinking would be.
So we don't know. We'll rule out the illness thing, I guess, and we'll have to assume that the names we give here are going to be available. Surely Carroll drops out of the starting 11. Surely Backinson comes back in for an away game where you might want that little bit of grit and I guess more physicality in midfield. He's got to come in surely alongside Morsey, hasn't he? And I guess the other one might be for Thompson at left back. Are we going to see Matt Penny maybe get a game? They're strong down the right, so I guess Thompson's better defensive qualities could prove useful. Penny always strikes me as a player better going forward than he is defensively, so maybe he'll stick with Thompson to counteract the threat by Elliot Bennett. But they're the two big ones for me. And I guess we know, unfortunately, our season is over. So are we going to start to see the likes of Tyree Simpson on the bench and Cameron Humphreys on the bench? El Mazoun was on there last weekend. McKenna's come out today, hasn't he, and said we'll put the strongest team out and stuff, and then think about the next game after that. But surely it's going to be a time to have some of these guys on the bench at possibly the expense of the likes of Tom Carroll and stuff. If they're, I know McKenna said they haven't made any plans for next year regarding contracts. However, they must be, to have one eye on next season. And surely if Carroll isn't going to be here, then surely you drop him out of the squad, you bring Backinson in, and you replace Backinson's bench position with someone like Cameron Humphreys, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. Well, you mentioned Idris El Mazouni there. He's one of the players in the squad. He's doing Ramadan.
Partaking in Ramadan. Yeah, it's a great video. I urge everybody to get on there and give that a watch. It's a great video he's done for the club today.
Good insight. And Andy Corrins, the conditioning coach as well, kind of explains that. It's a really interesting insight that and as to how to manage that situation, which makes me think he's unlikely to start possibly. But Morsey is going to start, so you can't rule out potentially Morsey or Mazzini. It's be quite an interesting balance there. If Backinson, we never really got to the bottom of why Backinson wasn't in the team. I wonder whether he might be one of these players that's maybe started the illness that's gone through the team, perhaps.
But then he was on the bench, so I guess if you're on the bench, you have to be available in case you get an early injury to somebody. So it was a strange one last week, but yeah, surely Carroll won't start this weekend, and he'll look to bring Backinson back in surely. And I guess it's a good chance for somebody now because they've said today, haven't they? We're recording this on Thursday night, so McKenna's done his pre-match today and said that Lee Evans has had a setback. So I'm guessing now there's no point trying to rush him back, is there? You may as well rule him out for the last 5 games and get him fit for pre-season and for August. So I guess somebody now has a chance here to stamp their authority alongside Morsey for the remaining 5 games and give McKenna a bit of a selection headache going into next season.
We talked full time last week about it wasn't a great game for Chaplin either.
Yeah.
Is there we possibly talked about maybe there's a role for Chaplin further up rather than as being one of these 2 10s behind a forward. I mean, the attacking lineup is something we debate every single week, isn't it, Seb? I'm pretty convinced we're not going to see Tyree Simpson. You might feel otherwise. Is it time to revisit the whole Joe Pigott situation, or what's your thoughts on that?
There are pluses and minuses to every option on it. That's the problem we've got with it. Norwood wasn't amazing last weekend. Bond's been out of form for so long, but Pigott was pretty awful in that game against Oxford, wasn't he? So it's a real tough one. Nobody stands out. If it was me, I'd probably give Pigott another go simply because he's the only one contracted to be here into next season. So at some point you're going to have to make a judgment call on him, and I guess the only way you're going to get that is to play him and see what he can do. He's better with his back to goal, which I guess if you've got the likes of Selena in the side and Chaplin maybe looking to push on further, if they can get him behind and he can hold the ball up and play other players in, and if not, he's going to go for the physical option of one of either Norwood or Bond. But both are so out of form and not doing great that it's a real pickle what you do at the top of it. What would you do for the central striking position?
I quite like the idea, and it's not going to happen. I quite like the idea of Pigott and Chaplin.
Oh, okay. I thought you could say the Pep Guardiola, just have like a front.
No striker.
Front 3 of Chaplin and somebody. Yeah.
Did you see Pep got the academy players to be the ball boys and ball girls for the Atletico Madrid Champions League game,
and they threw the ball in incredibly quickly to cut down.
Waste time. What a great idea that is! Maybe somebody at Ipswich Town might want to try and fancy nicking that. I quite like the idea of Selena and then Chaplin Pigott as a 2, a little large, but it won't happen. It won't happen. But what would you do?
we're in experimental time, so let's say Piggott, Chaplin, and Selena. Why not?
Right.
Luca doesn't tend to start away from home, does he? So
no, you're going with me, are you? That's exactly
yeah. I don't think they'll play as a two though. I think that it would be the two number 10s and Piggott as the focal
Okay.
point. But I've got no idea what he'll do. Wouldn't surprise me if Bond starts. I'd be surprised maybe if Norwood does start, but that front three, we just can't work out a decent variation. Selena aside, we can't work out a variation that's sort of hitting form and clicking, can we?
No. Dare we ask about predictions? I'm not feeling good.
I know I'm the positive one, but I look at all the stats for a side that doesn't concede goals. And I look at us, the side that doesn't score goals. Then I think, are we suffering a bit of a hangover from last weekend? And I could see it being a 0-0, which I know isn't great. I'll say 1-0 to Ipswich. Go on, I'll be positive. I'll say we'll sneak something, but it's not going to be a high scoring game.
Yeah, I'm apprehensive, and because I'm going, I think it'll be a 0-0.
0-0 strikes me as the obvious because they don't concede and we don't score.
Sorry, everyone.
That would naturally be 2-3 at the backsides, cancelling each other out. But I'll stay the positive one. I'll go for a 1-0 win.
There you go. So
and then everyone else will lose. Everyone in the top 7 will lose.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be sat here in a week's time going, we're only 5 points off. We can do it.
We can still do it. Miracles do happen.
Then we'll lose to Crewe or something after the Easter games.
Yeah, we'll beat Wigan and Rotherham, won't we? Hey ho. Either way, we'll be back to talk about what happens both on Saturday straight after the game. We're now doing these 10-minute reaction videos. So one of Seb, Craig, or I will be speaking to Ben, I think, at full time. And that will go straight down our YouTube channel about 6 o'clock-ish, 6:15-ish, depending when we can record it. Just give instant reaction, our sense of how the game had gone. And as I mentioned, the three of us, Craig, Seb and I, are at the game. So we will be doing the Flagship show on Sunday morning, and we'll put that out as soon as we can. We've tried to get that earlier and earlier. So we put it out at Sunday lunchtime last time out. Maybe we'll put it out at 10 o'clock. I don't know. If you've got any thoughts on where you appreciate the Flagship being available from, at Blue Monday ITFC, at Ipswich, give us a tweet, let us know that. We're always keen to get your feedback on when the right time is. But certainly, I think we've come to the realization that Monday morning is just too late. But as long as it's there for your Monday morning commute, that's all that matters. So Sunday night is probably where we're aiming for. But earlier, maybe better. Who knows? I've said a lot about that, haven't I? In terms of other bits and pieces on the channel, we mentioned the Mark Ashton interview and the Simon Milson interviews with Phil Ham at TWT that we've done there. Also, go and check out the live midweek show with Mikey, Dave, and Joe, talking about the takeover. And as I mentioned before on our Twitter, are all the details for all the shows that we've kind of done in assessing and discussing the takeover since last year. So the announcement show, the Mark Detmer interview, all of them available there. All the bits and pieces you need to know are on our website, bluemondayitfc.co.uk, for all of our social media, all of our YouTube podcast feed, as well as how to sign up if you are interested in signing up for our Leveler/Telegram community messaging thing, which is I'm really enjoying.
Yeah, it's really good. It's growing. It's a 2-week free trial, then it becomes a subscription service, and the numbers have remained so strong, haven't they? I kind of thought, oh no, we're going to wake up on Tuesday morning and there'll be 3 people left in the group, but it's the opposite. The groups are growing, and there's 7 different groups now focusing on the academy, the ladies team. We have a match day one, we have general Ipswich Town one, and you guys have got one for stuff like golf and cricket that I try to mute as much as possible. But yeah, it's a brilliant community. It's great to get engaged with people. We're sat there watching Champions League games and Premier League games, and chats are going on, and we've done a player of the season poll in there, which we're going to feed back to the club to get included in the overall vote. And it's a brilliant little community that's growing day by day, and we strongly recommend come and give it a go. 2-week free trial. You won't lose anything for those 2 weeks. It's great to see what we all chat about, and then at the end of the 2 weeks you can make your decision. But it's just a great little community that we're looking to build, and it's been really, really good so far.
I don't know about you, but I'm using Twitter less and less.
Yeah, it's great.
This.
It's so much nicer. It's brilliant. Yeah, because you get all the chat that you want to have on Twitter at full time following a game without some of
you're
the
wrong and you're a stupid idiot for being wrong.
You're an idiot. You're completely wrong. Yeah. So it's just much nicer. It's a nice place to be. It's a great little app we've got going. And please come along, join us, and see if you like it, because I think you probably will. Get
involved. As I mentioned, bluemondayitfc.co.uk. The link is there for Telegram. That's what you need to sign up for there. We'll retweet it. We haven't tweeted it for a while, so we do that as well. So yeah, do get involved in that. I think that's it in terms of plugs. Apart from
nope, it's not.
we're obviously supported by the great come on now. Trust the host. I know that I screwed up last week.
I was worried because you didn't do it again. I was thinking, no.
I'll save the best to last. You talk about the Greyhounds, Seb. Go on.
Well, obviously, we're away this weekend, so there'll be loads of you left in Ipswich. So what else are you going to do over the weekend for a Friday, a Saturday night, a Sunday roast? Get yourself down to the Greyhound. You've got the booths at the back with the heaters, so it doesn't matter if the weather's a bit crap like it is up north at the moment. Great selection of Adnams on tap, and it's the only place to be in Ipswich this weekend.
I think they've started putting weekend breakfasts back on the menu as well. So,
okay, ideal. And
the rumour is that Seb's only renewed his season ticket because he wants to go to the Greyhound more. So, what more endorsement do you need than that? No one's been clamouring and asking for where's sliding doors gone, Rich and Seb. Well, don't worry, all of you 0 people who asked where it's gone. It's back this week. And the YouTube copyright police screwed us over. So Aqua's gone.
That's why no one's asking about it, because Aqua's gone. It was the Aqua that kept bringing everybody back week after week.
So I did quite like that kind of trip hoppy thing. I mentioned that before. So yeah. So I haven't got the league table. I'm not prepared at all. Apart from
I was probably top.
Yeah, you were top. I'm not. Who did he play last time out? Was it Ben? Maybe.
It was you.
Was it me?
Yeah,
I won.
The week after.
I won last time out.
Yeah, you won last time, but overall.
Oh,
scoring a consolation goal, a Jimmy Bullard 30-yarder and a 5-1 defeat doesn't mean anything, does it?
That is exactly a great description in terms of sliding doors moments. That's what it is. So tell everyone what we're talking about this week, Seb.
So we were trying to work out who we hadn't done, so to speak, and we've gone for the Jim Magilton era, which I think is the last of our. You've got to appreciate we're both sort of coming up mid to late.
How old
30s,
do you think I am?
I know you're older.
Days.
I know you're older than me, so I'll take that one. So we decided that Jim was the last one we haven't done of the our era kind of managers. So we're both focusing on Mr. Magilton this week. Am I okay to go first?
Of course, if you want, yeah.
So I've gone for, you might see the shirt behind me. So this is we used to have shirts in 2-year kind of packages. So this is the 07, 08, 08, 09 design. And you told me the sponsor changed, which I'll bow down to.
Was Eon.
Yeah, okay.
Who I work for.
I'll bow down to your far superior shirt knowledge. So I'm going for the 07-08 season, which is the year we were incredible at home. Amazing Liverpool, Man City levels of performance at home, but we were absolutely awful away. So I'm going to go for the second game of the season, which is the first away game of that season, which was away to Plymouth. Alan Lee scored after 2 minutes. We won 4-1 the first weekend against Sheffield Wednesday, I think it was. We absolutely battered them, and we were amazing. Alan Lee scored a couple, and Pablo was back, and
Gary Roberts
scored an amazing volley. Yeah, so we were absolutely flying. We went to Plymouth. Alan Lee scores again after 2 minutes, and we kind of think, okay, here we go. But they equalised with a penalty on 85 minutes from Ebanks Blake. And then after that, we did not win an away game until Sheffield Wednesday in the February of that season. We were absolutely crap away from home. I remember Magilton coming out and saying they were going to try and mix up training times and meal times and prep routines, all that kind of stuff. But we were absolutely crap that year away. Amazing at home and rubbish away from home. And I just think if we'd have hung on in that game for another 5 minutes and seen that out to be a 1-0 win, then this weird hoodoo and this weird curse that seemed to build every time we went away from home wouldn't have been a thing. And we only missed out on the playoffs by 1 point there. You've got to remember it was the Alan Lee header against Hull in the last game. So we missed out by 1 point. And surely if we can win that first away game of the season, we follow that with some better performances and gatecrash the playoffs that year. So that's my sliding doors moment. Beat Plymouth in the first away game of the season in the year with amazing home form, and we get in the playoffs.
So these are going to be very, very similar. So I don't think you can use any other season apart from 07-08 because of the 1 point that caused us to miss out. And our goal difference was superior. We actually finished 8th.
Yeah, I think so.
We finished 2 places off the playoffs.
But at one point, we were in the playoffs on the last day when Alan scored. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Somebody else, I don't know who it was, wasn't winning.
So Wolves and Watford finished on 70 points. Watford got the 6th spot by 1 goal.
Is that they got 6th on 70 points?
Got 70 points.
God, I wish that was the total this year, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. For the Paul Cook era when Chesterfield got 69 and got in the League One playoffs. So yeah, I'm going for an away game as well. But you mentioned hoodoos and curses and what have you. I don't think there's a bigger hoodoo and curse than our away form at Norwich and the game in November where the game of the week of the takeover, no less, as well. I think.
Oh yeah, the notes in the yeah.
We're effing loaded at Carrow
Yeah.
Road, and Town race into a 2-goal lead at half time, courtesy again of Alan Lee and Pablo Cunago, I think it was.
Yeah.
And this Norwich team is destined to finish 17th, 3 points from safety, with Glenn Roeder in charge. It was actually Glenn Roeder's first match in charge. And in this team, the damage is being done by a 38-year-old Dion Dublin, a 32-year-old Jamie Kieran, and a 32-year-old John Hartson. This is a Norwich whose powers are on the serious wane, who would go on to be relegated next season, the season after that of the 3-2 win at Portman Road when Brian Gunn is in the dugout. And what's worse is that we have a 2-0 lead in this game. I'll let it slip. And in terms of momentum, you want to start the new Marcus. We're talking about takeovers, aren't we? But start the Marcus Evans era with a win. See off a team having been 2 goals up, but they just bullied us that day. I remember Dublin was obviously a bit of a unit anyway, very slow at that point at 38. Same age as I am now, actually. So I can't think what much good I'd be doing for Norwich at the moment. But they brought on Hartson at half time and they just bullied us. It was just men against boys. And there's a Garvin own goal in there. It's that, to me, a game. If you win that one, then I think if you win that one, I think that's got more meaning for it because it's away at Norwich. Again, we talk about the record there. Very rare that we get wins at Carrow Road. We also take a point off Norwich that would have put them further towards relegation. The Roeder era doesn't have a nice confidence boost of coming back from 2 goals down. And as you've said, we actually end up with 2 more points than we would have got otherwise. And that would have put us certainly in the playoffs. What I didn't check, and what I will check now if I can pad for time, is whether that would have put us beyond 6. So that would have put us actually in 5th place. We'd have been on 70. No, we would have been 6th place. Yeah.
Who we faced in the playoffs? Who finished 3rd that year? Can you see?
Yeah, we'd have played Hull in the playoffs.
No, we beat them on the last day, so we'd have been going into good form with that one. So
they were the ones that went up in the playoffs in that season as well. So out of the Dean Windass final, I can only guess. So there's my pitch: is the 2-2 draw with Norwich, 2-0 up to 2-2 against a team that was destined for relegation a season later. And for similar lines to you in terms of the away form. By the way, we've drawn a lot of games away from home. We lost quite a few as well, but in terms of what happened after that, so we drew away at Burnley, we drew away at QPR, but after the Norwich defeat, we then had 6 away defeats in a row after that. So ultimately, the run ends at the point that you mentioned at Sheffield Wednesday, that of the Alan Quinn goal.
Alan Quinn, yeah.
But that draw with Norwich, I think, further reinforces our away fragility, so that we're chucking more points away from home. So there you go. That's my logic. I've spoke much longer for Seb. That's probably unfair, but it doesn't matter. You've won it this season anyway, doesn't it? So it doesn't matter. So we'll put the usual Twitter poll out after we put the link out for the shows. Give us your vote. Let us know who you agree with. And it doesn't matter. It's all for fun. How about that? There you go.
Oh, is there no prize? Don't I get a prize at the end of the season?
Yeah, I'll come up with a prize if you want. Yeah.
That sounds really menacing. That sounds weird.
I'll give you a prize. Yeah. How about that? Yeah. I'll give you a Blue Monday mug. How about that? Cool. Good stuff. Let's listen to some more music. That is your lot. Thank you, Seb, as always, for all of your research, all your insight. Appreciate that conversation. Really enjoyed that tonight. And I look forward to seeing the outcome of Sliding Doors once more time. I'll come to you for the final word, as we always do, but just enough time to say, head to the Greyhound, our partners for this show. Check out our latest shows, the midweek one with Mikey, Dave and Joe. Come back for the post-match instant reaction show on YouTube on Saturday night, and the Flagship show, which will be out on Sunday with Seb, Craig and I as well. Don't forget to check out Leveller. And Blue Monday, ITFC.co.uk is where all the details live all the key pieces of information. Seb, I'll let you say goodbye.
So thank you everybody for tuning in. Still 5 games to go. It's still a great time to be an Ipswich Town fan. So let's look to build the season with some momentum. Enjoy Shrewsbury and come on you Blues.